Yeah, my name's Drew Holmes, lead writer on Far Cry 5. So Far Cry 5 takes place in the United States for the first time ever, specifically in Hope County, Montana, where a doomsday cult called the Project at Eden's Gate, led by Joseph Seed, has taken over the county. They believe that the end of the world is coming. They believe that their mission is to save as many people as possible by any means necessary. And you play as a rookie sheriff's deputy, stepping in on your very first day to come in and arrest Joseph Seed. Everything quickly goes to shit. You find yourself alone behind enemy lines, and it's up to you to build this resistance to fight back against the cult, rescue your friends, and save Hope County. Coming in with the idea of wanting to do a cult leader for the villain of Far Cry 5, we did a lot of research with cult experts like Rick Ross and Mia Donovan, saying, what are the commonalities with a lot of these destructive cults? Who generally sort of forms a cult? Trying to pick out, is there anything that we can sort of learn from, amass all this knowledge, and sort of really learning that there's not a one-size-fits-all for any of this stuff. And so we came up with this idea of a man who believes wholeheartedly that the end of the world is coming, that God has specifically told him that he has to save people before the end times come. And for us, that it gave us a much different flavor of villain than something like Voss or Pagan Min, because it wasn't just this charming psychopath. It was someone with a mission, with a purpose that was not going to let anything stand in the way. And so, finding that broken, destructive, creature that has built himself up into a leader and this magnetic personality was really what we wanted to go after. And for a long time, it was trying to figure out who that person was going to be. We had sort of sketches in mind, and I wrote a monologue and trying to find an actor. And when we found Greg Brick, who just sort of really embodied the spirit of this guy, and he felt magnetic, he felt you felt empathy for him, but you were also horrified at the things that he's talking about doing. It was this perfect marriage of what we had wanted, and having an actor coming in and delivering this character for us, and then we were off to the races from there. I worked really closely with him. I was at every shoot that we did for mocap. We brought him in, put him in the suit. We got his likeness, because it just, for us, Greg became the father. So it was super collaborative in terms of the scenes, that we would put down on paper. When we'd go to the table reading before rehearsal, it was always, he and I sort of understood that the key for Joseph, I think, was the honesty and the believability in what he was saying. And so for me, it was always, Greg, if something in here doesn't ring true, let's work through it, because I'm not precious with the words. I want to make sure that it feels like you can bring an emotional truth, the believability to this character. And I think that's what's going to lure people in and make him stand out amongst all the Far Cry villains. And so, every single rehearsal, every single shoot, we were sitting there and huddling, and I was, talking about, okay, here's the scenes that we're working on that we're going to shoot next time. Here's what we're thinking. We'd kick stuff back and forth. It was really great. I think, for me, Far Cry is about insanity. It's about this big, bombastic, scary and funny and over the top, but this sinister storyline running through. It's about giving players as much freedom to have the experience that they want, and I think that those villains are sort of key to that, because that's the force that you're fighting against. But having them be magnetic, scary, dark, but also allowing the player to have moments of levity, where they are able to go and find someone like Herc and have a really ridiculous, hilarious time, and then be able to jump back into sort of the darkness of the cult. I think that is sort of chocolate and peanut butter for us in terms of the tone of Far Cry, the flavor of Far Cry. So it's trying to figure out what the special stew is in every time you sort of set out to make that story. I think it's everything's a learning experience, right? Like Saints Row was, I was 10 years or so ago when I started working on that, and I think that the level of experienced writer that I am now. So you sort of take the things that have worked and especially the things that haven't worked, and sort of learning from the mistakes and the sort of the failures of the past, sort of go, okay, it's one step on, my journey is sort of trying to improve as a writer, as a storyteller every day. But I think, there are things that I learned in the past that, I think probably you can see hints of it, because, I try to work from a sense of, truth in myself and the characters and things that I believe in. So, that's all sort of leaking through when you sit down at the keyboard to write. But, I think for Far Cry, sitting down and working with Dan and JS in particular and saying, what's the story that we want to tell? What's the message that we want to sort of impart on the players, and what are the characters that we're infusing into this world? So it's everything is informed by the stuff that's come in the past, but I don't think that there's any one thing that I would point to say like, oh, because I did this, then it makes sense to do that. Like for me, it's about what's intriguing as a writer, the things that I want to work on, and that's, when I sat down with Dan, August of 2015, I think is when I first started talking to him about this. It was the minute he pitched me what his idea was for the game, I was like, I need to work on this game. There's no question. I think that you have to be willing to check your ego at the door, I think, as a creator when it comes to a game like this, especially a non-linear interactive experience. We're giving much more authorship over the story to the player this time around. We're not feeding you a list of missions and you have to go along and meet the character and then say, and if you want to, go off and screw around in the open world. We're saying everything is at your disposal. How you want to engage in the world and how you want the story to unfold is really up to you. Do you want to sort of attack the outposts? Do you want to go meet side quests? Do you want to go meet story mission characters? That you're sort of carving your own path, and you're controlling the cadence of the story in a way. I think, for me, trying to, in that chaos, come with a sort of a cohesive theme that Joseph is saying, which is, the world is on the brink. There's a reckoning coming, and are you willing to step back from that edge and think about the things that you've done and think about the world that we've built and turn away from it? I think there's a resonant message in there that we all feel like there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of turmoil in the world. What are we willing to do as a society to pull ourselves back from the edge?